Yes, y'all. This is Power Moves, where celebrities, athletes, key influential executives share how they make money, how they attract power, and how they earn respect. Yes, we have my partner in crime, Mr. Kevin Carr, Mr. Career Crossover in the place to be. Now, Kevin, I can't hear you. I see your mouth moving.
What? I'm here.
Okay.
Okay.
I was getting ready to say, can you hit us with the sign language? Show us your linguistic skills.
Absolutely. You know, I used to be a character at Disney World, so I can improv. You didn't know that, though. All right. So guess what? Hey, my man, 50 Grant, all the way from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn's in the house, no doubt.
No doubt. What's up,
Yes,
man? Great to see you. Great to be back too.
good to see you too, man. Happy birthday to your daughter. We shouted her out last week, and you've been doing some big things in Georgia. There's been a lot going on in
Yeah.
regards to what's happening within our community. You know, we're definitely getting going through it, and going into the month of May, it
Mm-hmm.
is Mental Health Awareness Month,
Yes, yeah.
right? So we're gonna touch on that, but I want to give a big shout out to my girl Shanti Das, who's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be on the Breakfast Club tomorrow morning.
Okay.
She's also gonna be on ABC News, featured. She just did an interview, I believe, today at the airport, and tomorrow is Cinco de Mayo,
Mm-hmm. The
but
way
it's
to go.
also Silence the Shame Day. So please go to the website silencetheshame.org. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
she got a day for herself where it's very important for individuals to understand that you have to release your emotions. Do not be afraid to seek help.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we do need spiritual guidance in the African American and the Hispanic community. We like to shy away from that because we were grown up like, hold them emotions in. Don't let me
Mm-hmm.
see you cry.
Yeah, I call it my man box. I don't want nobody in my man box.
My
But
man
hey,
box,
not
right?
not not anymore though. Certainly it's not
Exactly.
the way
And
to
so
go.
now, if in order for us to evolve to that next level, we need to also get that mental health, and we're going to touch on that with our guest. So I'm biting at the bit, but we need to definitely touch base with what's going
Yeah.
on in the world of music and
Mm-hmm.
in sports. So
Mm-hmm.
with that being said, let me kind of jump to it. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, she's going to be on the Breakfast Club. Shanti Das, former executive with LaFace and Universal Records.
Oh, okay, good.
So she's going to be on the Breakfast Club tomorrow morning.
Mm-hmm.
Check her out. And in the world of music, man, I mean, the music business world is on fire from a business perspective. And what I mean by that is there's a whole bunch of companies that are buying intellectual property, which is publishing
Mm-hmm.
rights. But in addition to that, most recently, I want to touch on something that's very near and dear, and it's a revenue source, and that's called NFTs, non fungible tokens. Do you know what that
Yes.
is?
I absolutely do. I just had a long conversation about 2 hours ago about it.
Yes. So Warner Brothers or Warner Media
Mm-hmm.
has just purchased a company in which they are going to be doing. This company is going to be doing all the NFTs for all the artists.
Mm.
So they've acquired them so that they can have it in house. So once again, now I want to share something with you in regards to the business of music. So the business of music has transitioned from before they used to give you what's called production deals, where you would partner up with the record label, you would do a 50-50 joint venture, and you would be the producer. So folks like a Puff Daddy, where he was producing records, and the Timbalands and those folks, the Jermaine Dupri's, they were doing production deals, although
Mm-hmm.
they were called record labels, but it's really a
Right.
production deal where you're obligated to provide a whole bunch of albums and projects, and in return you got a 50-50 split with the record label.
Okay.
Because of that 50-50 split, and LaFace Records went through the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
then that also divvies up the money that the artists were getting. So when you heard TLC was like, man, we're not getting paid as much, is because they were getting a split of a split of a split.
Right.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because of this whole streaming industry, where you're only getting micro pennies for every stream that you're receiving in revenue.
Mm-hmm.
What the music industry has done is, well, prior to the streaming, is that they did what's called 360 deals. So before, an artist can make money off of touring by themselves, that's isolated money. They made money off of their merchandising and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
With these 360 deals, now these record labels are like, we own your merchandising, we own your we get a piece of your touring, we get everything, we
Everything.
get your
Everything.
publishing, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And so that's why a guy like Steve Stout, who's focused on United Masters, where you can
Mm-hmm.
own your masters and you can put your stuff out yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you know what you're doing. That's why he's advocating for that and so many other platforms. So, with that being said, the artists that are signed to those labels with the
Mm-hmm.
360 deals, the opportunity to do their own NFTs, non fungible tokens, where it's a piece of art that's
Mm-hmm.
digital,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you own it as an artist, that's another revenue stream. But
Yep.
now with the record label buying it, you're you're losing out on
Mm-hmm.
opportunities long term wise. Because think of it this way, you know this from dealing with your athletes who have basketball cards, or folks that have baseball cards, football cards. Just recently, I believe LeBron James just got 1 point something million for one of his basketball cards. So
Yeah.
it's huge.
Yeah. It's huge. And one of his NFTs actually sold for $5 million just the other day. So yeah, it's a very, very emerging industry. And if you have a brand or you are considered an asset to something, you should figure out how to get into the NFT space in a hurry
Absolutely.
too, and own as much of it as you can, if not all of it. But no, man, I wanted to jump into the sports world. Can I jump in there? Can I jump in there? Speak.
You could jump on in, brother.
Hey, so two things are happening in the business of sport. We're going to stay on brand right now. Is the name, image, and likeness, as you have so eloquently stated in the music industry, the sports industry at the collegiate level is evolving too. The NCAA has now made it okay for student athletes to cash in on their likeness. Every student athlete is now eligible to go out and use their name and use their likeness and create revenue around it. So, male, female athletes, they can do that. Now, the colleges have to also provide education around that, and even education if they're a very progressive program to the parents, which I really encourage. So this is going to change a whole lot. What I am concerned about is for first generation students and student athletes who come into university environment and they have a big name, and all of a sudden at 19 you are running basically a brand ambassador type business. And if your readiness isn't 100% on level, you could really possibly circumvent a contract or breach a contract. And then you're already sort of in a situation where you have, issues at the college level that you really didn't anticipate and plan for. My hope is that student athletes and the institutions and their partners, whoever they partner with, will give this whole movement time to flex and get adjusted. But I could see a whole host of new issues coming out of this for families who've never ever seen opportunities like this. And if they come and they come really big, you could see possibly some issues where there's even, unfortunately, I don't want to like look at this on a negative sense, but there could be issues around just management, uh, possibly credit issues, taxation issues, bankruptcy, filing early, all these things if people aren't careful. The reason why I say this happened when I was at the NBA when student athletes turned pro and they were 19.
Mm-hmm.
You saw a lot of families jump in and sort of didn't understand how to manage all of this. Even success has to be managed and managed well. So
Mm.
my hope is that it'll go right. Florida will be the first state to start as early as July of this year. So it's the recruiting wars are on once again for the
For sure.
conferences that certainly offer the best opportunity. So we could jump all day, but we got a show to do, man. What do you?
We do have a show to do. Well, let's and last piece I did want to talk about is the Jay-Z of finalization of the deal to Jack Dorsey, the owner of Twitter and Square, to 302 million. And now the title platform. So if you have podcasts, I believe he's going to start putting more podcasts out there. But if you have any music, you're going to get 4 times more money per stream than your rivals. One of my mentors, James Jackson, has been talking about title when it comes down to publishing and things of that nature for quite some time. They've been
Mm-hmm.
given the most um, lucrative type of streaming deal, but now this is even better, 4 times as much. So for all my artists and musicians, download to title, baby, and
Mm-hmm.
push it. And remember, Jack Dorsey owns Twitter, so you could tag team both, baby, tag team both. So with that being said, let's
Let's
talk a
welcome
little.
our. Go
Let's
ahead.
let's do the introduction because we got four
Absolutely.
minutes and then we're gonna have to go on break. So just kind of keep mindful of that. But once again, like I said, this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's important that we bring on um, guests because you can't be wealthy if your health ain't wealthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're not mentally strong, if you're not spiritually strong, if you're not getting those two key components, because that's like really the core, then you are like spaghetti. So our guest has her PhD, LMFT, ABC, DEF. She is a bilingual, multicultural, licensed marriage and family therapist and life coach. Her work focuses on cultivating resilience and using it as a tool of empowerment within each client to guide them in transforming their own mindsets, their own emotions, and relationships. She began her journey in the mental health field 15 years ago. Her professional experience began serving adults with intellectual and development disabilities in residential programs. As a military spouse, Dr. D has the opportunity to live and work in a variety of cultural and professional settings. She has clinical research, her personal experience with military life and culture, and her research includes exploring the impact of race, ethnicity, ethnicity.
Ethnicity.
Wow, how come
Ethnicity.
I mumble mouth right
I
now?
got you though. I got you. Go ahead.
Appreciate it with the assist, baby, on couple, family, and individual identity and development. Development is key. The rise of online services has allowed Dr. D to serve busy entrepreneurs, attorneys, professionals, artists, etc., and helping them transition through the stages of development, assisting college students in managing anxiety, coaching entrepreneurs through personal development goals, and resilience is at the core of her work. Her
Mm.
mission is committed to resilient living through healing and empowerment with strengths based on and systemic approach. She guides clients as they resiliently transform their own mindsets, emotions, and relationships. Her achievements is that she's been specialized in couple and family therapy from Kansas State University. She has a master's in marriage and family therapy from Kansas State, a bachelor's in psychology from SUNY State, New York at Geneseo, and she's a licensed marriage and family therapist in the states of Michigan, Hawaii, and Missouri. And she's certified in motivational interviewing. So, with that being said, let's welcome to the show the expert who helps with suicide prevention, stress management, and relationship couples, Dr. D, also known as Dr. Maria Mercedes
Oh,
Dominguez.
I like how you try to say that. Thank you. Yes, I
Welcome
am
to the
Maria
show, The
Mercedes
Power Moves.
Dominguez. Thank you so much for having me. I am excited to be here.
Well,
Wonderful.
awesome, awesome. Well, what's great about my partner in crime, Mr. Career Crossover, is that he has what's called the 9 medallions that stands for champions. And the biggest, one of the ones that we want to touch upon, because we did say this is Mental Awareness Month, is mental toughness. So during our line of questioning today, our interview is going to really revolve around that. And I look forward to continuing the conversation because we got to pay some bills and go on break. So once again, this is Power Moves, where celebrities, athletes, key influential executives share how they make money, how they attract power, and how they earn respect on In Touch News Radio, reality radio where everyone is a star. See you after the break.
All right, come right back with Dr. D.
CJ, and I want you to listen to Trap Talk Radio at 8 p.m. every Thursday right here on In Touch News, www.intouchnews.com.
Call Ricky. Ask Ricky. You need medical or a lawyer? I got the man to do the legwork for you. We tried the other ones before, so believe we hunted down 813-248-6300. Everything gon' be okay, call Ricky, he coming. He taking care of state of Florida, grab a pen of sundown. 184-361-RICK. That's 184-361-425. Never word from the point forward, just recline. Just ask Ricky, plus your boy statewide. Just in case you missed it, I'ma tell you one more time. 184-361-RICK. Call Ricky, ask Ricky. It's a legal medical referral service. The doctors and lawyers in our network are trained in handling auto injury claims and getting you the best medical treatment and recovery. Dial 1-844-361-RICK. That's 1-844-361-7425. Ricky. Ask Ricky.
All right, we back. This is Power Moves, where celebrities, athletes, key influential executives share how they make money, how they attract power, and how they earn respect. Yes, y'all. So Kevin, in the place to be, this is your superstar guest. Let's give her a welcome.
Absolutely, Dr. D. We are so glad to have you today. Thank you for coming on. So, how you been doing, especially during this last year of transition? I know you're an expert in everything in the world of mental health and wellness, but at the same time, you are a human being and you have a life and family and everything. So, how does a doctor of such stature deal during the pandemic? How have you been?
I have been learning how to practice what I preach at levels that I didn't have to so much before. Before the pandemic, things were predictable. You know, there was kind of like a stability and just ability to have security in knowing what's about to happen next week or even what next year is going to look like. That's something that a lot of us have lost in the middle of all of this. So I have absolutely, you were talking about mental toughness before, like I focused so much on resilience. I had to like implement that into my day-to-day mindset on a daily basis. Practice flexibility, practice adaptability, practice finding solutions and figuring out like, okay, how am I going to transform and transcend this situation and not get stuck here? So it has been a lot of work to cope, but not just cope, but be like, okay, I'm good. Even though the circumstances might be crap, like there's a way to figure out how to use what we got and make sure that we're good.
That's great. So everyone, as you know, has problems. What should people during the pandemic, what should they do to address them? And you probably have seen so many things. So, you know, talk to how you've helped people address them.
Yeah, the number one thing is acknowledging that is there. One of our most common maladaptive coping mechanisms is to practice escapism or to try to dismiss or minimize or keep ourselves busy with something else. But then the problem that causes is it creates the snowball effect, or we keep on not addressing the elephant in the room. So we have more tension in those spaces when those conflicts have gone unresolved. So it's important to, as soon as you get that irk, like, oh, my button was pressed or something about this doesn't sit well with me, addressing it head on. Because when we don't address the problems as they present themselves and we practice conflict avoidance, or we're like, it wasn't that much of a big deal, and we wait until it's a big deal to address it, then we got to manage the crisis control and all of the other things that were neglected. So as soon as you know that something's off, don't wait for it to be a big problem. Address it right then and there so it doesn't take on a life of its own.
How do you determine sometimes how to help people? Like how do you let me just say that, how do people determine when to seek help?
Hmm. Great question.
Yeah. So I'll tell you how people usually determine it and how I wish people would. So how
Oh,
Okay.
people
I like
typically
that the way you
determine
broke
it.
it down. How you wish people. So yeah, please share.
hmm we wait until we get the breakdown. We wait until we spaz at work and the boss is like, "Oh, you need something's going on. Like you need to go talk to somebody or figure something out." Or
Mm.
we wait until we snap and we punching holes in walls. Or we wait until we notice like I can't get any sleep unless I'm taking, this sleeping medication because my mind is keeping me tossing and turning at night. Like we typically wait until it's outside of my control. I don't know what else to do before we seek support. When we do that, it's still the process of recovery is still possible, but we have all of this built up work that we got to clean up, plus dealing with whatever's happening in the present. What I wish people would do is know that we're social creatures, period. So we deserve support at all times. So we don't need to wait until we feel broken or we feel like we can't deal before we let somebody come in and join the team. And we know this concept and we understand it when we think about our business or when we think about like raising a family. Like we know, like I deserve a team. I deserve support. I deserve people helping me reach my goals. And the same thing applies just to our sense of satisfaction in life and well being. You deserve a team of people who want you to enjoy your life, who want you to win, who want you to feel good. And whenever you notice that that's not norm for you, it's okay to seek support and being like, I know there's more I want out of life and I'm just, I'm not feeling it right now. And allowing someone who wants you to experience that to join your team so that you could get there sooner. So we're not just about crisis control.
So what are the tools that you speak about that someone could utilize to identify that?
Right. So one, like identifying, we talked about like emotions earlier, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
if you notice like lately I've been feeling really angry, or lately like my irritability is really high. Like any little things, it's I'm really irritable, or you notice you're not as patient as you once was. Like those are good signs that your like intuition's trying to give to you that something is off, something needs to be addressed. So acknowledging what it is that you're feeling, that helps you get underneath it and know what is it that I really need. Every emotion, if it's a negative emotion or it's a positive emotion, it's attached to an underlying need. When it's typically emotion we don't like, it's kind of our psyche's way of saying something needs to shift so you could feel what you do like feeling. When we feel stuff that we like, it's because our needs are being met and things are good. So when you're feeling emotions you don't like feeling, that means that something needs to shift. So with anger, it typically usually is common, like maybe a boundary was crossed, or maybe you were disrespected, or maybe there's something that needs to be said. Maybe we could practice some assertive communication here, or we could do some kind of advocacy work. Or sometimes it's like wanting, it's because an injustice occurred and you're wanting to make things right, right? So it's not about like trying to stop feeling that. It's about understanding what is that feeling trying to teach me about what my next steps are or what I can do to change this situation. And
Mm.
so,
Let me rewind that because you just unpack some stuff. So because we should always be students of our own temple, which is
yes,
our
sir.
bodies and our minds,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Mm.
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
So I like what you said. We need to teach ourselves. Can you unpack that one more time? The importance of teaching ourselves, because I think that's one thing that we really don't do. Like we'll learn other things, but we'll fail to learn our own bodies.
Yeah. Yeah. And even our own emotions, because our emotions are
Um,
teaching us too.
mm-hmm.
So like, for example, when our heart is racing, our heart races for so many different reasons. Sometimes it's excitement, sometimes it's arousal, sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's anger. But we already know, like, okay, my heart is racing, something's up. I need to pay attention to it. It's important, like we tune into our physical body to tune into our emotional bodies too. Like, oh, I'm feeling angry about something. That's just not nothing. That's not something that I'm just gonna, smoke it away or drink it away or try to escape it away, like something's up. What about that made me so hot? And allowing each of your emotions to be your teachers. So sometimes I'll have the person like externalize the emotion and be like, okay, let's pretend the emotion's a messenger and it's coming and you don't like the way it's coming to you, but the messenger is here for your highest good. It's here to serve you. It's here to benefit you in some way. What is it trying to teach you right now? What is it trying to tell you about your next steps or about what needs to change? And in those situations, when we train ourselves to think that way, like, okay, you know what? I really don't like how I was spoken to in that meeting. I really don't like the way I was disrespected. Then that lets you know, okay, how is it that I feel compelled and convicted to respond to that? Am I upset because I bit my tongue and then I didn't practice integrity there because I knew something needed to be said, but I didn't say anything. So that's why I feel this way. That's why I feel off. Or is it because I'm recognizing this this person may not be in alignment with the mission of our project. So maybe it might be time to think about who is a better fit for us to reach the goals we're trying to reach, right? But just like thinking about how is this trying to serve me? What is it trying to tell me? Because just like pain in the physical body, it's the pain is serving you to let you know, hey, take pressure off that leg. Okay. It's not good. So emotionally speaking as well, that pain is coming to try to communicate something for you to change that's trying to serve your highest good.
Mm.
Wow. Wow. It's very, very, very enlightening. So, Dr. D, we're amateurs at best here when it comes to recognizing sometimes in our own homes, at work, in our family, when someone is having some mental health issues. Yeah, what are some of the signs that even novice people can pick up if we could give our audience some strategy or some tips or signs to look for?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If you notice things that are out of character that are becoming a pattern. So sometimes we're just spontaneous and we just do something randomly one day. And it's like, oh, where did that come from? But when we're like, you know what? She's typically like talking to her friends or like hanging out. And lately she's just been locked up in her room, like Netflixing her life away for the past couple weeks. Like
Mm-hmm.
that seems off. Just noticing those changes in behavior that seem out of character at first, but then you notice, okay, this is becoming a little bit of a character of a pattern. It wasn't a 1 or 2 day thing. Like we going on a week or so. When you see patterns like that, then that's enough to be like, even the first time it's enough to be like, oh, you good. But when you see it become a pattern, then it's just like, I've noticed this and I'm getting a little concerned. Like, is everything okay? Is there any way I can support you? Like, has something been going on at school or at work? Just practice curiosity and respond to it in that way. But changes in patterns is typically one of the early red flags we could see that there's something deeper going on.
So something like a lot of sleep, or someone staying and the exact opposite, staying up all night. Those could
Yes,
those be signs when someone's just sleeping,
absolutely.
sleeping, 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 or staying up?
Yeah. And isolation is another one too. Isolation is one of the bedrocks of depression, anxiety, and a multiple other mental health issues. So if you see someone is very isolated, then that's typically a sign that something's off too. That's also
So
a red flag for like relationships as well.
so why would someone isolate? What's going on to make them isolate, and what can you do? Like, I mean, have teenage kids, and they go in the room and they don't come out.
Right,
So sometimes I'm
right,
like, what's going on? Hadn't seen it for a
right.
day. Like, are you okay in there? But at the same time, like if they're staying too long, then I'm like, what is going on? So, is there something going on when someone decides to isolate? What is that about?
So hold on,
Yeah,
hold on one
Okay,
thought.
okay.
We let's get that question at the end of the break because that's a heavy one, and we want her to let it all out. So as you can tell, I'm representing from my boys, the Torero brothers, Cinema Giants. Yeah, they do all the reggaeton videos, Maluma, etc., etc. Big shout out to them. But once again, this is Power Moves, where celebrities, athletes, key influential executives share how they make money, how they attract power, and how they earn respect. Very special episode with Dr. D dropping some jewels on mental toughness. What are the tools? Only on In Touch News Reality Radio, where everyone is a star. See you after the break.
All right, come right back.
The storks are bringing me a baby brother. We can do this together.
All right, let's go.
Storks know how to keep kids safe. Do you?
What?
Oh my gosh, you don't know.
I know.
You don't. Oh man, you laugh when you're uncomfortable.
No.
Making sure your child is in the right car seat is one of the steps to safer travel.
I will rock this.
You will rock this.
To know for sure that your child is in the right car seat for their age and size, visit safercar.gov/the right seat.
Cool. Very cool.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan. We were able to get in touch with each other in no time.
How to find each other.
The whole experience was
the
fine.
most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm and keep to the plan.
Message.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Smoothing out your favorite R&B flavors.
What's your flavor? Tell me what's your flavor.
In Touch Radio.
We are back. This is Power Moves, with celebrities, athletes, key influential executives share how they make money, how they attract power, and how they earn respect. With my man Kevin Carr, Mr. Pro, the CEO, Mr. Career crossover with Dr. D in the house, dropping jewels. So let's get back to, and only on In Touch News Radio, reality radio, where everyone is a star. Get back to that question about how do we handle when our kids or our loved ones are isolating themselves, especially, I want to throw a little extra, especially during this pandemic, because you have no other choice but to, I mean, not to necessarily say you only have a choice but to do Netflix, but, once again, with this pandemic, it's definitely provided some challenges. And so it's important that we as parents and as loved ones, as kings and queens, have to make sure we take care of our family. So go ahead, Kev.
Yeah, no, so it's just right on, Dr. D, we left off, the isolation. What's going on when people are doing it excessively? And what could be some of the things that we as family members, not that we're experts, could do to help really help our family get at least some help in that space if we notice it and we know that it really is not normal.
Yeah. So one differentiation I want to make, because you noticed, you even mentioned it, like all the time we spend in solitude isn't isolation. So we could be in solitude and we could be like journaling or reading or like learning or something like that. And that's not necessarily isolation. Isolation is when we are making those cuts from our social support system. So again, pay attention to change in pattern, right? So if you know that, she would be FaceTiming with her homegirl typically, or even though they locked in the room, they might be like in the group text, or, going back and forth on Snapchat or whatever the case may be. There still is that social element to it where there's still that connectedness. There still are other people that are aware of where they are, what they're needing. So there's connection somehow, some way. When you notice like the social relationships are getting cut away little by little, and even the typical connection that was present in the house is no longer there. So it's just like, like we used to have our daddy-daughter dates like every fourth Sunday, and she hasn't been wanting to do that lately, or we're not having our family movie nights anymore, or things like that. Then that's when you want to pay attention to that, because it's a change in the pattern, like something's off, pulling away from the social interactions that were normal. Like you all mentioned earlier, the pandemic has created that at the environmental level where it's outside of our control. But those of us who are blessed to live with family members, we actually have that as a protective layer to build up our resilience. It's I've worked with people who live on their own. That has made it extra difficult.
Mm.
you you don't see a human outside of a screen for days and weeks at a time. That absolutely has a negative impact on our psychological well-being. When we're in the home with family, we can do something with that, like, okay, let's play a game together, or let's enjoy this movie together, or you know what, I've been meaning to teach you how to cook this dish. Like, there's a
Mhm.
way where we could still connect with each other in that way. So that's the distinction that I wanted to make there. All alone time doesn't equal isolation.
Yeah, that's a great
But
point.
what you other clues to pay attention to, I like that you brought up the sleep. Like, when you're noticing big changes in sleep, not sleeping enough or sleeping way too much, oversleeping, when you're noticing changes in food, when we have rapid weight gain or rapid weight loss, that's typically a good sign that something is off. When you're noticing changes in moods, like, she typically is like a chill person, but lately it's been just like something is off. Like, her
Totally
energy has
irritable.
been like extra. Yeah. Like,
Mhm.
changes the energy levels too. Like, so when you notice changes in like those areas, those are good, like, signs that, okay, I want to support you, or I want us to try to figure out what's going on. I want to make sure that you're good. I know it's hard, but we want to make sure that we're supporting you and you're getting your needs met. And then we can also include like the help of a professional. That's
Mhm.
sometimes necessary to do a deeper assessment to get to the root of it, because culturally, many of us, myself included, were raised to not think about it. I don't got time to be sad. I don't got time to be mad. I got to
Mhm.
finish doing this, or I got to do that. Sometimes it takes some work and some digging to figure out what's really at the root or at the core.
I love
Excellent.
I love that. I love that. So, what's interesting is in the entertainment industry, we are hit, and when I say entertainment, I'm talking about sports as well, because sports is part of the entertainment industry. We are hit with so much pressure, and there's all eyes on me, like Tupac, right? That there's a facade that they have to put out there. Perfect example is what I liked about DMX. He kept it 100. In other words, he kept it real. He definitely was authentic about what was going on, what he was dealing with, and he was a giver. So in light of what we just saw, and so many other people who have passed on through suicide, like Anthony Bourdain and things of that nature, what what do you think is kind of going on that we're seeing so many of them going through all of this, and you're like saying to yourself, especially the ones that committed suicide, man, I wish you talked to me, or what can I do? Or sometimes we on the other side feel guilty because we're like, this person, we know that this person is in pain and we want to help them, but we can only do but so much. What advice can you provide for you know folks that love these people?
Yeah. I love that you mentioned the mask piece, because many people in the public eye are trained to create that persona. It's part of their profession to know how to put on the face, know how to have like the right speech, the right like speed in which they speak, the right like facial expressions, all of that. So they are trained and rewarded for showing up in a certain way. And there is an aspect of them that really gets highlighted. What is important for when I'm working with people who are in the public eye is to make sure like you have that intimate circle who knows what you look like when you're naked too, who knows what you look like with that mask off, with that armor off, and that you know it's safe for you to be vulnerable in those ways with. If that isn't part of reality, then like working on what needs to be worked on to create that is really important. So the advice for the loved ones, like if you already know, like, yes, I am part of the inner circle. I'm one of the few people on the planet that really, really knows what it's like when he comes home at night, or when, you know, when she has to take off the makeup, whatever the case may be. Knowing that they need validation just as much as any other person does. Too often, the people in the spotlight, there's this expectation that, oh, you're good, you have everything you could ever want. What do you got to complain about? So sometimes we project that onto them, and then that makes them feel less safe or less comfortable to open up, because then it's reinforcing that, you know, yeah, I don't got a right to feel this way or to think this way, and then it's reserving, and then it's actually another layer of armor or another wall that's going up, even with someone in the inner circle. So important to like validate, even if it's difficult for you to understand. Really try to practice understanding and curiosity, because the fact that you're even in the inner circle is key to their health and well-being, because it's important for them to have people that they could just be real and raw with, and that luxury for in the
Right. Is that me or you, Joel?
I think that could
Okay.
be Dr. D. But it's,
Okay.
go ahead, man. I can see you biting at the bit. You got a question to ask.
Nah, I'm just keeping with the program. Dr. D is laying it down, so hopefully she can hear us. So you kind of are going in this direction. We want to last question in our respect section here is, well, I would say this. The last question in the section of what we've been talking about is how do you get what you want, Dr. D? Can you share some of that mental resiliency that you talked about? How do you get some of that for yourself, based on what you teach? How do you do it?
Great question.
Yeah. For me personally, the hardest step is typically seeing it first, because a lot of times I can see the problem, I could see the situation, but it's difficult for me sometimes to imagine the best case scenario. Like, what does me resiliently transcending this look like? Once we're able to visualize what that is, then making it real, bringing it to our physical reality is so much easier. But sometimes, like, shifting from that problem mind to that solution mind, like, what does it look like? What does winning look like? What does winning feel like? What is that overcoming process like? Once we're able to see it and be like, okay, there is a way out of this. Yes, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, so the seeing it part is, for me, the most important, because once I see it, I'm like, oh, I can make it happen. But sometimes, yeah, if I don't get to that part, then that's when I get stuck a little bit more. But then once I see it, then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna speak it. I'm gonna allow the people around me to know, like, look, this is the goal, this is the direction we're going in, this is the support that I need from you, and then acting on it with persistence, because of course, life throws us curveballs all the time. So it's not like giving up. Okay, it didn't go out this way. Like, okay, how do I adapt? How do I pivot? What is it that I need to do to get back in there? Because I know what I've seen, and I know I'm committed to making it happen. And so, like, keeping our eye on the prize, but sometimes we don't take the time to visualize what that prize is. So it's hard to go after it.
Ooh, that's so good. That's like the athlete's anthem you just dropped on us, because you said, because you know what, when you're playing, like, I think of basketball, and granted, I played Division 3. It's all good. But I walked onto the
baby. You played, baby. You played.
I played, and I walked onto the NYU basketball team. So
that's right.
And it is just like that. Like you said, you visualize what you're going to do, and then you ask for the support. I like what you said about asking for the support. Those are some jewels right there, girl.
Absolutely.
And then the third piece is persistence. Just keep going on. That's, oh my gosh, that's a gem right there. So we got to go on break again. Oh my gosh, we might need a part 2 to this.
Yeah, Dr. D has given us so much. I'm like, we got this recorded, so we got to play it again.
Yeah, so once again, this is Power Moves. And this is a commercial for Dr. D. If you need your mental right, you better go contact Dr. D. Are you in Hawaii?
I'm in Missouri right now.
All right, you're in Missouri. It's all good.
All
So
right.
once again, this is Power Moves, where celebrities, athletes, key influential executives share how they make money, how they attract power, and how they earn respect. See you after the break on In Touch
right.
News, reality radio where everyone is a star. Come check us out on Tuesdays, www.intouchnews.com. Let's pay some bills.
Hello, Kubo. What have you got planned for today?
Come on, this way.
Adventure can be found anywhere, but the best place to start is in the forest.
It's the most powerful magic there is.
Head outside to discover incredible animals
Wow.
and beautiful plants that come together to create an unforgettable adventure. So grab your loved ones and explore a world of possibilities. Visit discovertheforest.org to find the closest forest or park to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
My teacher said that we should have a plan in case of an emergency. Do we have one?
First thing I'm gonna do is grab a flashlight with dead batteries.
I'm going to start randomly throwing clothes in the bag. You two will be hiding in the closet and Dad won't be able to find you.
And that's when we both start crying.
Uncontrollably. Can you pass the cutlets?
Winging it is not an emergency plan. Make sure your kids know what to do during an emergency, who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Search Ready Kids at nyc.gov or call 311. Brought to you by the New York City Office of Emergency Management and the Ad Council.
All right, we back. Anna, I don't hear the music. So
we going right to it, man. DJ Anna know what she doing, man.
We
She's
going
like,
right to it. Listen, I'm going to jump into this because this is the power segment. Kevin, drop it on her, man.
Yeah, we gotta get all of these in, Dr. D. I mean, we can do a part 2, but I am respectful of the busy doctor's time. So what disappointment, I would say, have you had or faced that broke you, and how did you resurrect yourself from it and really, pick up the pieces and thrive?
Woo!
Yeah.
You dropped the bomb.
Yeah. I had a professional heartbreak.
Okay. What does that mean? Professional heartbreak.
Like my heart was broken in my professional identity.
Got it.
So everything was good with the hubs, but like this shift professionally like broke me down. So I was living in Hawaii at the time, living my best life. I'm an island girl, so I love just being on the beach as much as possible, watching the sunset over the ocean. Like everything was good, and I was very happy with the money I was making. I had a couple contract jobs. Everything was amazing. I was like, this is everything that I want. Then, from a couple weeks to the next, like I kind of had a heads up it was coming, but it was over a phone call that the shift happened. The contractor, they were being absorbed by another company. And so it was the big company's policy that was taking over. So my out-of-state license was no longer going to be honored or valued by this new company. So like that, from one phone call to the next, I no longer had employment. And because I was still in process of seeking employment in the state of Hawaii and their regulations were stricter than the states I had come from, I knew I wasn't getting no other employment no time soon. And cost of living in Hawaii is pretty high. I had children at the time, so I was just like, what in the world? So that broke me, and because a lot of my like worth had gotten tied to my professional identity. So I'm like, if I can't work, if I don't have nothing to do, like if I can't make money, like what am I doing? So it broke me down. I learned from that it is important for us to have like strong, healthy identities in a multitude of our roles, not just depending too much on one. because then if some kind of fracture happens in one, then we lose our whole selves. And we're so much more complex and we're so much bigger than just one of the hats that we wear. But if we over identify with the hat, which I did at that time, something happens with that hat, the wind flies it off for a minute, then I lost myself. So I had to go through that process of like figuring out, okay, it wasn't this particular job or this title, it's the skills that I have and that I can offer. And there's a multitude of ways in which I can do that. So from that process, I also didn't like power being robbed from me like that quickly. Like someone in, you know, a board of people in somewhere in the States, you know, kind of made this decision, like, we're going to follow this. And then that had a huge impact on my life. So I chose to reclaim that. And I said, I will never again let anyone have that much power over my wallet and how much money is coming in. So it was from that that I decided, okay, it's time for me to start my own business. And my father had been trying to tell me since I was in college, but I was like, nah, I want stability. I want to know how much money's coming in every week. And he's always been self-employed. So he was trying to get me to follow his footsteps. And I was like, mm-mm. But then that smacked me up in the head real quick. And I was like, you know what? I think he had a point. He might have had a point.
You know,
so
that is
it was, go ahead.
that is huge what you just said, because this is what you go through all the time, Kevin, where the athletes are transitioning, and that's, you know, that's their persona, right? That's all they know. And then all of a sudden that gets ripped away from them. And who am I now? Right. So that's a very good point. A great takeaway for folks out there is, especially if you're young, don't get caught up in what others say about you. Invest in yourself. What I got from it was invest in yourself to determine what are the other facets to your multi-dimensional self, and explore that so that you can, you know, if something goes awry, you can pivot real quick. I love that. Wow.
That part. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. You said a key word. Sometimes we over identify. I think that is really professionally, you know, you get caught up, or, you know, you can be an athlete or artist and you can totally be identified as that. People remind you wherever you go. So that's definitely a key takeaway there. Go ahead, Joel.
Okay, we're gonna have to do this as a quick minute round, and then we, like I said, we're gonna have to do a part 2 sometime. But you know, you're a military spouse. You have clients that have PTSD. You deal with the military. A lot of divorces, because I deal with that. Uh, come, you know, happen in the military because they marry young. They don't really know each other, right? How do you prepare young couples and how to deal with it? You got 30 seconds to answer that, because we got a rapid round going on right now.
We do.
So know what our shared expectations are and what our individual expectations are. That's typically what a lot of conflict is around. We think our partner has the same ideas of what it means to be married, what it means to be husband, what it means to be wife. So talking about what the expectations for this marriage are and our roles. So I'll leave it at that. Communicating openly about expectations.
Boom. Your turn, Kevin.
Yeah. What tips, Dr. D, can you share with owners and managers and how to deal with, you know, designated or excuse me, disengaged employees? Like when you have someone in your team and they're just not clicking and they're like creating, you know, sort of fireworks in some sense, or they're not firing at all and they're holding you back. What tips can you share?
My number one go-to with that is assertive communication. So like, okay, we addressing the elephant in the room. This is going on, but because I care, you're part of the team. Let me know, is there any way I could support you? It might have to do with something going on in their personal life or something like that, but at least opening the door, giving them the opportunity to speak on that, but then also addressing the elephant in the room. This performance isn't acceptable. This needs to change. What is it that I can do to support you so that you show up the way I know you can, or I've seen you do before?
I like that. The way I know you can. Positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
I know you can do this. I visualize it. Amen.
Yes.
So, all right. So So coming from the music business, I'm telling you, when you are what's called artist and repertoire and you are working with the music for these artists, I swear, each and every one of you guys, I applaud you because you guys are coaches. I know I was there too. We're like psychologists, psychiatrists, mama, daddy, the whole nine yards. What advice can you give them when these artists have dependency issues?
Mm, really encourage that autonomy, and then them practicing assertiveness, because when we're depending on someone else, it's typically like they're doing the hard stuff for us, and checking ourselves, make sure we're not enabling it, because a lot of times I hear complaining about, oh, they too dependent, but you sitting here doing things that they're perfectly capable of doing.
Right.
You're enabling this behavior. So taking a look and being like, okay, how am I enabling this? What boundaries do I need to set up and put in place? And how can I empower them? Because the point of this relationship is for them to be a better artist and for them to be empowered to express themselves. And so what can I do to empower them more? And how can I fall back on enabling?
Man, you know what? We needed you in some of these studio sessions before we go into the studio with these
Right.
artists. I hold up before we go and hit this track. I need for you to talk to Dr. D, and then and this is on you, bro. It's not on me. I'm not getting you. I'm not getting your chicken. I'm not.
Oh my God. Dr. D, I got another question. What do you do to instill a high level of self-respect in these challenging times? How do you help people get
Mm,
that self-respect back when maybe they've lost the job, or their economic class has moved down, or they had to leave college and now come back home to community college? These things, the respect people have for some people, it's been challenged by COVID, right? We've had to take some compromises and deal with that. How do you get that self-respect back and get people right side up on that?
Yeah. Encourage, I support them in tapping back into their desire, because we have a failure, a setback, and then we kind of give up a little bit, or we kind of go dormant. When we're tapped into our desire, that keeps our energy going, that keeps our flame, that keeps our passion alive. So keep
Mm,
tapping into your desire, like knowing what it is that I want, and knowing that you are deserving of making that happen. So let's practice integrity. That's a big piece of the resilience work I do. If you're not practicing integrity, if you're outside, if your behaviors aren't looking like what you really want on the inside or what you really believe internally, that's where we see a lot of mental health things start to come up. So deeply of it, like, what is it that you truly desire right now? What do
mm,
you want most? What do you need most right now? And what's the smallest step we could take to make that, to get us a little bit closer to that? We need to practice integrity with our desires so that we could be full of energy, full of life, full of okay, the situation sucks, but I know who I am, and
right.
I'm gonna practice my solution finding skills, my creativity, my expression to make a way.
I
Well,
love that. So you know what?
Joel,
It's time for you. It's time for you to do your commercial. We did the wrap around real quick. So listen, Dr. D, how do we serve you? How do we fulfill your desires? How do we magnify you, sister?
Thank you. Please come support me and connect with me. I'm most active on Instagram. That's at Dr. Dr. D the MFT. So at Dr.D the MFT. You'll find me there on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, all the other media platforms. But you want to connect with me, the fastest way to do it would be on Instagram.
yeah,
Awesome.
and she does a
Awesome.
great job. Thank you, Dr. D. We're actually going to be working together to do more mental health in the space of health and wellness. So I'm looking forward to really helping communities, black and brown and red and yellow, all over the United States and if not the world. So Dr. D and I are teaming up. So we're going to have more to come, right, Dr. D?
Yes,
Woo, we
sir.
power
I look
moves.
forward to
It
it.
sounds like you guys gonna have some case studies,
Yeah.
so
Yes,
that's what I'm
sir.
talking about. And this is the power moves that we need within our community. And once again, these are the takeaways. That's why you want to tune in to Power Moves every Tuesday, 8 p.m., because we're going to drop jewels all day, every day. And once again, Power Moves with celebrities, athletes, key influential executives, how they make money, how they attract power, and how they earn respect. Thank you, Dr. D. We appreciate you.
Thank you so
and
much.
see our guest next week. Baby.
All right.
In touch with you.
Thank you, Dr. D. Have a good